Superman 2025 was my most anticipated movie of the year. So much when booking my tickets to go back home for the summer, I booked it in like a way that I could watch the movie at the earliest time as I could. And don't let that fool you. Superman may not be my favorite character, but still I have this fond spot for me. And at the same time, I was thinking about this, and Superman is probably the one superhero that I have interacted the most when it comes to his media, if I include TV shows, especially because like of Smallville. But albeit all of that, I'd admit for a long time I grew up with the ideology that Superman was born. But the older I got, the more I understood him and what his character embodies. And I could make this video about each piece of Superman lore and media out there. But I just wanted to narrow down to one movie. And that one movie should be Superman Man of Tomorrow. And straight from the name, you can tell what kind of Superman film you're going into. Like Man of Tomorrow. That name brings so much hope for me. Like it gives you this feel-good feeling, that feeling of love. And when you compare it to a name like, let's say, Man of Steel, for example, it just feels like I'm comparing the Transformers film to an actual superhero film, to a superhero that wants to help people. And see, I've had my ups and downs with this movie. Say what you want about the Tomorrowverse. I hate what that universe became towards the end. But at the same time, whereas the new 52 animation of DC was closer to like an MCUification formula on the DC brand, I really appreciate going back to the Tomorrowverse, well, at least for this one movie, because it gave it this different light. Because this is a film that took me time personally to appreciate, because it was something different. And honestly, I really love that now. It explores Superman in this world where superheroes already exist. We hear Martha, for example, talk about Batman, and Superman himself already started saving people, like he's on his year one in Metropolis. And we even hear his parents talk about, oh, this isn't like Smallville. So obviously he grew up helping people in Smallville. And he doesn't even have a suit yet. And as I just mentioned, he just moved to Metropolis. So the film also goes with this whole alien theme with its choice of supporting characters. For example, we get Martian Manhunter, and that's exactly the opposite of what Superman is trying to be. Like this kind of alien in this movie, he prefers to hide in the shadow and keep this low profile. And we have Lobo, the guy that literally outs both of them to the world and creates this problem for both of them. I personally feel for this movie we did not get enough of Martian Manhunter, particularly because, as I said, they had this really good night back and forth, the different viewpoints between both of them, like the whole living refuge on Earth. And although we did get the back and forth with them, I just wish we got more with them. But on the different topic of their views, I like how Martian was coming from that view that humans just being afraid of what's unknown, what is alien, difference can cause a problem for them, and also each other, as he did not want, with his own like hand of experience, he saw the destruction of his own people in Mars. But on the flip side, you see Superman's point of using their powers to do good. Their powers is what makes them different, and use that different side of themselves to help the others, and see themselves less as threats but more as them people that can give hope. That may sway the public perception on aliens and extraterrestrial beings. And then there's Lobo, just being Lobo, that just wants to kill both of them, and it turns somehow creates this parasite, which I have said before is an excellent choice of villain, especially for a film like this that explores the sense of humanity and what separates them from being human and being an alien. Yes, he's a freaking meta-human, whatever, but the general public, they don't really care about that. And at the end, they're scared of what's unusual, and they try to kill what's unusual or try and be mad at what's unusual, and rightfully so. And just pairing the parasite as a regular Joe that is just trying to make by, and even starts by not really trying to hurt anyone. But we'll say, why does he change his ways? I don't really get that. But he's still conflicted, and we see the Superman's human side take place that tries to get the better of him. Like, and especially when the parasite gets his personality, and how much Superman tries to defeat him with that approach. I just think it brought this another layer to a Superman character in like live, not live action, but like, you know what I mean. I won't say we rarely see this, because if you go to watch like the Superman animated show series, I'm probably sure you see that on there. But like, I didn't really grow up on that, so it's something that I personally rarely see. I love how in that big final moment we see people turn on the bad guy, which is a human, and praise Superman, the real alien that is disguised as one of them. And he just sets this straight, because he appears to look like them, but that doesn't mean that they should just love him for that. And for what this movie has the ability to be, I'm really glad they were able to shove in as much as they did without it having to come off as underbaked or whatever. And then there's Clark and Lois, the close relationship, which is also really good here. There's not a really true relationship in this yet in like the romantic sense, but even at the start of like before they get to that point, just as friends, I'm going to use Smallville as a reference point here. It feels like them in Smallville, like the early days of Smallville, them competing for that headline. And I love how powerful they make Lois in this. Like, she's not just standing, she's like standing up to her guarantor Lex, and her going out, like being in those dangerous moments, taking that extra mile for that exclusive clip and that exclusive interview. Even the competition between her and Clark, and how she tries to interview Superman, and how she like tries to also steal Clark's story in his moment of weakness. Even with her and Superman, she tries all these divisive moves to make her feel on top, make her feel as if she's in control of this godlike being. I think this film does a really good job at depicting the best aspects of how Lois should be done in a movie. Overall, Man of Tomorrow, in my opinion, is the closest thing we have ever gotten to a good Superman origin film. It has such a good theme and is stuck with that one theme for what this movie has the ability to be. I'm really glad we got as much shoved into this film as we did, without it having to come off as, you know, I just said this, without it having to come off as, like, I don't use the word boring, but it did a really good job. It's also a film that grew up, like, as I said, I've watched this movie like 3 or 4 or 5 times, and each time it's just gotten better for me. So I feel like it's a movie that gets better on rewatch, which is insane. I also watched Man of Steel just to like see the last solo live action Superman film, and probably this was my first time watching this movie since it came out, and I expected to hate it, but I thought it was pretty alright as a superhero film. But I think it fails to capture that essence of what Superman is. And I understand what Snyder is trying to do, and Superman there is probably the most realistic take on this character, but I think it just doesn't work in a realistic tone. I feel like you can do a dark and gritty Batman, but I don't feel Superman is that kind of character. Don't get me wrong, I feel like, I don't say Zack Snyder is a shitty director, but I feel like if you give it to a better guy to do it, he would do a way better job. But I feel like if you look at something like Invincible, I feel like this tone of Superman fits a character more like Invincible better than it does for Superman. I feel like those two films, but I feel like them two stories, they share a lot of things in common. But I don't know, probably an unfair comparison, because Invincible has like 3 or 4 seasons now and this is just one movie. But I honestly appreciate what Man of Steel did a lot. As I said, it's not the best depiction of our favorite character, but that's fine. I really enjoyed this movie for other things that it did. But then that is one of the very few reasons why I love Superman, and why I'm happy that the new film could encapsulate those aspects. And my whole take is, I think give Man of Tomorrow like an extra hour, and I think it's better than maybe James Gunn's Superman. But at the same time, I don't trust the Tomorrowverse, because they had 3 films to try and make a good finale and they fumbled. So my hand's in the air for them. Thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Peace.